morning and that we are still here. I'm thinking I don't see any new eyes, so I don't think... Is there anyone here with us for the first time? Okay, everybody witness, I'm going to beat him after the service.
Just so we know, we got that on tape, right?
Nothing. Well, anyway, I'm glad that everyone is here, and if you're watching from home, please know that we are sending you our love. That we all know that our church family is truly priceless. And again, my same quick reminder, once the message is done, that lovely sign that says exit here, everybody should get up and walk out the door. Not congregate in the sanctuary to talk, but to go out and be in the Ramada if you need to do that. And again, I wouldn't recommend the parking lot since there are 2 other churches here, and I really don't want anyone to get ran over. No, that would be really bad. All the way around, it would be really bad. So, announcements. We are getting ready to take our paper that we want to get rid of for shredding. So if anyone has an SUV or a car that's large enough, we would like for you to come and let us load boxes up, and then we're going to take them to the place to shred. We've got 1 vehicle already, and we don't think 1 is enough. So if anyone can volunteer, or you know someone who can, would you please get in contact with Valerie Griffin, and she'll give you the particulars of where it's going to be taken to be shredded. Oh, and a big thank you. If anyone this week, this entire month, did anything to help us to get ready for moving everything out, and there was a lot of stuff, we want to say a really heartfelt thank you to all those people who helped, because it really got us through this challenging time. So thank you, thank you, thank you, because it's been a tremendous blessing. Our prayer chaplain today is Reverend Carol Ricketts. If you want to do a prayer, she'll be with you in the Myrtle Fillmore room. So if the door's closed, please have a seat and she'll be with you shortly. Our board member is Jane Carnes. So if you have questions about the church, about the board, she'll be happy to answer those for you. Would you please join me in saying our mission statement? Together? Our mission is to provide a prosperous and loving community by connecting to God through prayer and following the teachings of Christ. Let's say that one more time, please. Our mission is to provide a prosperous and loving community by connecting to God through prayer and following the teachings of Christ. Please join me in affirming our opening statement. Together, I can do all things through Christ in me. Once more. I can do all things through Christ in me. And we say, Father, Mother God, living, loving presence. We are grateful for our blessings and for the blessings to come. We say thank you for the rain. Thank you for all the beautiful people who helped to volunteer to get things done. We send our love to our community, to the world. We pray for healing. We pray for all of us coming together as one nation, working towards the future. And we say thank you, God. Thank you, God. We ask this and all blessings in the name and through the power of the living Christ. and so it is. Amen. The daily word is oneness. I am divine. Over the years I've learned there's a spark of divinity within me and within all people. This divine spark binds us as members of one family and deepens our awareness of God. Today, my understanding of my divinity expands. My divine nature is so much more than a spark. It is my essence, who I truly am. I realize I don't have to rely on anything outside of myself for love, comfort, and guidance. Everything I could ever need from God is already mine and is expressing as me. My realization of oneness extends to all people, whom I now see as fellow divine beings. Freed from all illusion of separation, I am aware of the divine presence everywhere, expressing through everyone. We are divine. They that may all be one, as you, Father, are in me and I am in you, and they may also be in us. John 17:21.
Consecrate the holy bread.
like a burning bush, singing like a scripture verse. Maybe wanna bow my head. I remember when church let out, how things have changed since then. 'Cause everything is holy now. Used to be a world half there, and the second grade hand me down. Walking with the Reverend and everything is holy now. 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 Everything is holy
Thank you, James. That was a beautiful song. All right, good morning.
Good morning.
Are you ready for your Sunday joke?
Yes.
Okay. It's a short one.
It wasn't funny.
Are we okay now? Okay. No, that was not funny. All right. So there's 3 pastors who are meeting for lunch, and one of the pastors says, you know what, this summer I've been having problems with bats. Because they're in my attic and they're in the loft, and I've used cats and I've used spray and they just won't leave. So another minister pipes up and says, you know what, I've been having problems with rats too, and they're in my bell tower and they're in my attic, and I've tried all kinds of different ways fumigating them, and I can't get rid of my rats or bats either. And so the third one pipes up and says, you know what, I baptized my rats and I made them members of the church, and I haven't seen them since. I tried. Okay. So today's lesson, I want to talk about prayer, because there's a difference between praying to God and praying from a consciousness of God. And hopefully I'll get you to see the difference this morning. So I know a lot of us have graduated from the begging God to do things for us. I know I haven't always been that good at not doing it. Please, 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 God. But sometimes we're very polite beggars and we don't even realize we're doing it. Because, you know, we can say, please, God, protect my children, or please, God, heal this for me. Or we can say, please, God, you know, I need money to pay my bills. And that's a form of begging. I mean, you're asking, please, we're doing it very politely, please take care of these things for me. So I want you to hear the difference between saying, please, God, protect my son, and I know my son is surrounded in the light of God and is protected. The difference between, please, God, heal me from this, and saying, I know the healing presence of God is within me, mightily at work, and I am healed. Hear the difference between saying, please, God, I need money to pay my bills, and saying, I know that God in me is my source and all my bills will be paid. Do you hear that difference? One is confirming that God is in you, that you are one with God, and you are claiming the truth. The other one kind of puts you in a separate position from God where you're asking God like it's something that's outside of you or something that's separate from you. So those are the two big differences. So I want to talk about oneness this morning because that's where we want to pray from, is that place of oneness with God. And how do you know when you're one with God? How do we know? Well, first of all, you would be at peace. You would be at peace no matter what's going on in the world. You would feel that energy, that power, that presence within you. You would be in a place of joy. You would be in a place of knowing exactly what you needed to do, what you needed to say. You would not be seeking for answers outside of yourself. You would not be seeking answers from someone else because you would know them. Because you're one with God. You're one with that divine wisdom that is within you. You wouldn't be afraid. Fear would be gone if you were one with God and knew that oneness. So to me, it's a big blessing to work at knowing your oneness with God. Because anytime we start feeling separated, which is when we're in fear, judgment, unforgiveness, doubt, resentment, any of those emotions separate us from God because God is not any of those things. God is love, and that's all God is. So when we find ourselves in these other places of fear and resentment and all those other bad things, we separate ourselves from our oneness with God. And we do that mentally. We are never spiritually separate from God. God is with us 100% of the time. But mentally and emotionally, we can separate ourselves from that divine energy that is within us. And we start praying from a different place. So true prayer is continually recognizing our oneness with God and claiming the truth so we can manifest all the things that we want in life, right? So we choose to become like children. That's the first step, because Jesus tells us only the children can make it to the doors of heaven. Well, why is that only the children? Because he's talking about that pure innocence. He's talking about that sense of wonder. He's talking about that knowing. Children always believe they're safe, I would say most of them. Most of them believe that their parents are going to take care of them in some way. So children come with that pure essence of innocence. They come with that pure essence of wonder and excitement. They come with that knowing of who they are. It's life that starts putting layers on that they're not good enough, or they're not strong enough, or they don't look right, or whatever thing you want to tell them that they can't succeed. It's life that tells them something different. But they come knowing this. And that is our oneness. When we're a kid, we've got that oneness with God. We're not questioning how we're going to eat tomorrow. We're not questioning if we're going to get to school tomorrow. We're not questioning what's going to happen tomorrow. The child just lives in the moment. The child just knows its oneness. The child knows who they are. So that oneness is with us when we are born. We're the ones that lose it. So there's a story in the Bible that I'd like to talk about. It's not one we hear about too often, from the book of Kings. And there's the king of Syria and there's the king of Israel, right? And the king of Syria is wanting to do battle with the king of the Israelites. And the king of the Israelites knows Isaiah, and Isaiah is a prophet. He represents the I am that is within us. And so Isaiah keeps being in his place of oneness, and he keeps telling the king of the Israelites what the king of Syria is planning to do to them. And so the king of Syria never wins because the other people know what he's going to do. So the king of Syria gets very angry with Isaiah, of course, because he's ruining his plans. He's ruining his plans to take over Israel. So he decides he's going to get Isaiah. So during the middle of the night, he sends his horses and his chariots to Isaiah's house and surrounds his entire house with horses and chariots and men that are going to take him away. Well, in the middle of the night, Isaiah's servant wakes up and he goes outside and he sees all those horses and all those chariots and he sees that they're surrounded. And of course, the servant is going crazy. Wake up, Isaiah. We're surrounded and we're going to die. We're going to die. There's no way out. They have us totally surrounded in the outside. And can't you see yourself going into that same place? A lot of times we feel like we're surrounded by darkness. We're surrounded by sickness. We're surrounded by financial problems. We're surrounded by whatever challenge that we're facing, just like these people are. So he comes in, he tells Isaiah what's going on. And Isaiah tells him, "Fear not, for those who are with us are so more many than those that are with them." So what is he trying to tell him? The ones that are with us are so much more greater, so much more powerful than the people who are out there outside. And of course, still the servant doesn't believe him. There's just two of us here. How could we be greater than what's out there? So he asked God, he said, "Please open my servant's eyes so he can see the truth." So he can see the truth. So he can find this oneness that he is. And so he opens his eyes and he goes outside, and what does he see? He sees chariots out there of fire. Chariots of fire that are right before all those other chariots. Now, chariots of fire are powerful. Those represent the Spirit. Those represent the angels. Those represent all that spiritual power that we have. And they're all right there standing before the other chariots. But you don't see that. You don't see that if you're not in your oneness with God, as it explains in the story. He was asked to open his eyes and to see. Well, how many times when we see ourselves in a challenge, can we just take that opportunity to become one, remember our oneness with God, and affirm the truth and see the truth? To know that you have all this spiritual power that is helping you on your journey in life. And so many times we don't see it, and so we make a different choice to do something else, right? So he tells him to open his eyes to see, and he does. He does see these chariots of fire that are protecting them. And so then Elijah asks God to make it so those who are in the chariots are blind. And he's not talking about physically blinding them, but making it so they don't see truly what's going on. And those people who are out there trying to get them are not in a place of oneness. So it's easy to trick people who are not in a place of oneness. It's easy to deceive people who are not in that space where you're one with God and looking and living the truth. You become easy to deceive. So that's what he's telling him in the story. So Elijah goes out there and tells them, "I'm not him. you need to go see the king of Israel. He takes them, leads them right to the king of Israel, and they wake up and they realize where they are. And they realize they're in the enemy's camp. And the king of Israel says, do I kill them? Do I kill them? And Elijah says, no, do not kill them. Give them food and water. And he gave them food and water. And they went back home and they never came back again. That's the power of praying from a consciousness of God. Those people had come to get him with chariots and with horses. And all the time, they were protected. He received that divine right action to take them to the king of Israel. And that all worked out just fine. He took them there, they got fed, and they never came back again. They were shown kindness, they were shown love, and they never came back to bother them again. So it kind of pays to work from this place of oneness with God, right? I have another story that's kind of a war story too, from a movie, that there was this battle in the 1700s, and these people wanted to make war with another town, and this town had a fence or a wall around it so people couldn't easily get in. And they thought they would go and they would surround that town, and they wouldn't let anybody in that town, so they would starve them because no food could get into their city because they were on the outskirts of it. So they were going to wait a month and then attack because they're going to be weak. They're going to be, they haven't been fed for a month. So the month goes by and they get ready to attack and they break down the door and they go inside, and guess what? There's nobody there. Those people inside stayed in their oneness with God and snuck out during this time that they were just playing around outside waiting to attack. They snuck out. There was nobody in there. And lo and behold, when they turn around, the whole town has surrounded them, ready to do battle with them, and so they surrender and they leave. But how many of us would have gotten paranoid that we're surrounded by a whole troop of people who want to hurt us? We would have stayed in there frightened and afraid. And if we don't get with our oneness, we probably would have gotten killed. But they got the divine right action to sneak out. That spirit within them gave them the guidance to sneak out. And so when the other people came in, they were not there. That's a true story. So, when we pray from this place of oneness with God, we have infinite possibilities, like I was talking about earlier this week. We get out of that box, and we're open to all these divine right actions that get us where we need to be. So, I can give you a personal example of this. In December, of course, we found out we needed to move out of this space, and we didn't have very much time to do it. In December, I started a second job, which was brand new to me, and I think I told you before, making dinner or lunch for people, which is way outside my box, right? So I have this challenge, huge challenge, surrounding me in two different ways. I have it coming from church, and I have it from a new job. So instead of staying in my place of oneness, I stress myself out. How am I going to get all that done? How am I going to learn all this? How am I going to, how is this all going to happen? Because I couldn't see how. So in a place of being very stressful, yes, I allowed my guard to go down and I got sick, right? Sick at one of my most favorite times, Christmas time. Now, getting sick is something that's going to put me back in my oneness, because I got 2 weeks of just staying at home. 2 weeks of wanting to feel better. 2 weeks of knowing that I have to reconnect to my oneness to be healed, right? So I find myself back in my oneness, and I just say, okay, God, we just take one day at a time, and I just know you're in charge, and I know things are going to get done. And lo and behold, that's exactly what happened. I didn't know how we were going to get all the rooms painted that needed to be painted. I didn't know how we were going to get rid of all the things in the bookstore and all the decorations we had and all the tremendous amount of stuff that we had stored in this facility. But it's gone. It's gone. And I had a boatload of people helping me. But that's the whole gift of the process. If we stay with our oneness with God and stay out of the fear and stay out of the, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to do this, and stay out of the anguish we put ourselves through and stay connected to our oneness with God, things just work. Things just work. I didn't ask for any, well, I was asking for help, but I didn't know how I was going to get the help. It just came. So there's all those angels. There's all that divine right action that took place so we could have this place empty and cleaned up by the end of this month. And we're just like 90% of the way there right now. We have the new church that's going to take our platform down for us, and that wood thing back there. They just offered to do that. So it all worked out because I let God's plan unfold, okay? If I would have stayed in that place of fear and stress about it, it wouldn't have gone so smoothly. So it's interesting how the universe brings about a situation where I have to be at home, where I have to be reflecting on what I'm doing in order to heal myself from a sickness, in order to push myself through this very stressful time of moving the church and starting a new job. I had to get back to my oneness with God. And so that situation happened, and that's where I went, and here we are, just about ready to move out. And I haven't killed anybody with my food at the golf course. Yeah, I made a Bloody Mary, and I made a grilled chicken sandwich, and I made hamburgers, and everybody enjoyed them, so I'm making progress. But still, it's a scary thing. And lots of times we have scary things going on in life. And you know what? It's not a time to get into fear. It's not a time to get into hatred or judgment or any of those other things. Or judging what's going on. Or judging yourself because I got sick. Oh my God, I should have never got sick. Well, sometimes things just happen because they're supposed to happen. I needed to calm down. I needed to spend time in prayer and meditation. I needed to reconnect to my oneness with God, and I was given the opportunity to do so. So, it's an amazing thing. When we have our oneness with God, we get into a place of expectancy, of good things happening. Now, I didn't say expectations, right? Because when I get my expectation set up for a certain thing to happen, a lot of times we get disappointed. But there's a difference between doing that and being in a place of expectancy. Expectancy means I'm expecting something amazing to happen. I may know not what it is, but I'm expecting it, just like a child does. Like a child going to Disneyland. He's never been to Disneyland before. He doesn't know what Disneyland really is, but he's excited that he's going to Disneyland. So we need to get excited about each and every day. So my question to you is, can you live every second of every day surrendering to God's will? Because that's truly what it's all about. We have no control, not really. We like to think we have control, but not really. So if you could surrender every second of every day to the will of God, that means we got our fingers off of it. We don't have our direct result from praying, because usually that's what we do. If we're praying, we normally have a direct result that we're wanting from it. So what I used to do when I first started is, well, God, this is the way I see it happening, but I surrender it and let it happen whatever way you want it to happen. So I did that for a while, and then I thought, well, why am I creating a plan about how it should happen if I just have to surrender it and let God do what God needs to do? So I kind of eliminated the this is how I want it, God, and just go to God, just work through me in the highest and best way. I want my highest and best good, and I don't always know what that is. So I open myself to that realm of infinite possibilities that we've been talking about this month. And that's the only way we can attach or be a part of that realm of infinite possibilities, is to let go of our desired outcome from our prayers. My prayer is always to receive my highest and best good. Always. And I get it. Yes, I may have gotten sick. I got time to recuperate and to reconnect. Yes, I came back here and everything just seemed to be going in order to get to the goal of moving out of here. Yes, I had fun last Sunday driving my little golf cart, beverage cart out there. Even if it was raining, I was having fun driving. So I had to let go of the fear of starting a new job. I had to let go of the fear of how we get this process of moving done. And I just let the universe take care of it. And look what happened. It all turned out perfectly. So it pays to pray from this place of oneness. And from a place of oneness, we are always safe. We are always secure. I have another story that I read about. It's a true story. There was this woman who was walking late at night to her car. She had just gotten off work. And she saw 3 men come out from a car that were hiding behind a car. And she stayed in that place that God is with me. God is with me. She said it over and over again. And they kept coming and they kept coming. And all of a sudden, when they got 3 feet close to her, they stopped. And they looked at her. And they were afraid. She could tell they were afraid. And they turned around and ran. So she didn't understand what happened, but these men got arrested eventually. And so they asked, why did you turn around and run? And they said because they saw a giant figure in front of her with a sword and with a shield. Now, that's not something we just come up with, but that's something the universe, that's something spirit, that's something all the angels and divine entities that are around can do. They saw, even though it may not have been there, they saw a warrior there to protect her. And they turn around and they run. But how many of us could have stood in that place and said, God is here. I am one with God. I am here. God is here. God will protect me. Most of us, I know I would be, shaking. It would have taken me a while to remember that God is here with me. And there's lots of stories like that. There's tons of stories, you don't hear about them, where people were protected because they stood in their truth. They stood their ground, that they were one with God. and nothing could harm them. I'm not saying it's an easy task, because it's not easy when you have threatening things coming at you. But it's the truth. It's the truth. If you are one with God, how could anyone on this planet harm you? They can't. So there's some things we got to stay out of if we want to keep our oneness. We got to stay out of judging people, which means you have to see the Christ in every person. I know that's not easy because there's lots of people around that we don't like. And you don't have to be around them, but you do have to see that they're a divine child of God. You do have to see the Christ in them. You have to separate their behavior from who they are. And I'm not telling you you got to hang out with them. I'm not telling you you got to be their best friend. You can certainly keep your distance from them, but you need to be able to see them as the Christ. You need to be able to see them as a divine child of God, because that's the only way we can get that full oneness of God, because God does not judge people like that. God does not hate people. God does not resent people. So if we're doing that, we're separating ourselves from our oneness. The other thing we have to do is to see there's only one power and one presence in the universe. Only one. There is no evil. People always like to argue with me about that, but in truth, in reality, if we're going to say there's only one presence, one power, and that's the power of God, then there can be no evil. There can be bad behavior out there, yes, but there is no power called evil. And you have to recognize that. And then you have to be able to patiently wait. Because sometimes we don't see the big picture. Sometimes the thing I am desiring has maybe 15 things that has to happen before I will achieve the thing I'm wanting. So I have to learn to be able to stay in that place of excitement and expectancy, even though I don't see it happening right at this moment. Because there's a big plan. In all the cases for you to achieve whatever that big plan you want, there has to be things that happen. If you're wanting a harmonious relationship with someone who is not harmonious right now, there may be lots of steps that need to happen in order for that harmony to be created. Okay? Just like this church. I don't know exactly how to get to our permanent church home, and I'm sure there's lots of little things that have to be created in between here and then, and I just have to stay in that place of excitement and expectancy, and knowing that the universe is creating my dream, and it's going to happen. But I may not see it happen for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, but I still have to keep that expectancy, because there's things that have to fall into place in order for that to happen. And we don't ever get to see the big picture. We just get one step at a time. You get the next divine right action is what you get, which leads you to the ending dream. So are you with me in staying in oneness with God? Staying in that place of love. Staying in that place of peacefulness. Staying in that place of excitement, of expectancy that something good is going to happen every day. Are you willing to surrender your will to, you're surrendering to God every day is basically the bottom line. Which means we have no control, right? Huh? Are you okay with that? You got no control? We're just going to let God do I mean, we do have to take the steps that God tells us to take, but we really have no control over exactly how it's going to show up. All right, well, I'm glad to know that you're all ready to do this. To be the love, to be the light, to stay in your oneness with God. Because that is truly how we become protected all the time. That's how we become guided all the time. That's how we become healed all the time. That's how all these amazing gifts of God show up, is by us being in our oneness with God. And you have to pray in order to do that. You have to be able to still your mind and feel the power of God within you. And once you've got that feeling, you're going to want to get it again and again and again. So that's the key. Spend some time in prayer and meditation and feel that power of oneness. And you will never be afraid again. You will never be lonely again. You will never need for anything again, because you know who you are and what your power is. So let's go into prayer and meditation. Let's just take a deep breath. Take this time to relax. To let go of your worries, your concerns, your fears. Just hand them over to God and say, these things really don't serve me anymore. I truly want to experience my oneness with you. So I lovingly give these things over to you. And I let your light, I let your love transform them into more light, into more love. So I take this time to feel God's power and God's presence that is within me. For I choose to live from this presence. I choose to know that I am the light. I choose to know that I am all that God is. And when I claim that, there is nothing I can't do. I know that I am protected. I know that I am healed. I know that I am guided. I know that I am safe. So I take this time just to allow God's love to grow, to see that beautiful light, that beautiful love of God. Just let it grow in your consciousness and in your heart. Saying, I am ready to experience a life from my oneness with God. I am ready to take my fingers off the steering wheel and to allow your wisdom to guide me, to allow your love to heal me, to allow your presence to be my source of all my prosperity in life. So in this moment, I choose to let go of my logical thinking, to let go of my fear, to let go and let God be God in me. So let's just take some time in the silence and allow the presence and power of God to be felt in your heart in deeper and deeper ways. Okay, so let's come back to the room and hear the music James is playing, and always remember this, that God's power, God's presence is with you 24/7. We're the only ones that shut that down. So today we walk in faith. Today we walk in our power. Today we claim the truth that we are all one with the holy presence of God. And we choose love, we choose joy, and we choose peace. And that is who we truly are. Amen.